Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, July 1st, 2024. I am Dave Biddle, joined by Mr. Dan Rubin. Thank you to Dan for covering for me the last 2 weeks. Happy to be back with you guys. It was good to have a little rest and relaxation, but I love talking Ohio State football with you guys. So good to be back. Good to be with Dan, and thanks to Dan for covering for me for the last 2 weeks. Welcome Factor Meals back as one of our sponsors. I love Factor Meals. These are not the microwave meals we grew up with. Okay, this is this is fresh, not frozen, fresh, high quality, and they're ready in 2 minutes. And you're thinking that, come on, that can't be real. It's real, and it's vacuum sealed. It's not like once it arrives fresh, then you have to freeze it. No, you put it in your refrigerator. It'll be good for a while. It's not like you have to make it that day or the next day. So good. So I really, really recommend it. And we're going to get you guys a good deal. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Make your day delicious. From breakfast to dessert, stay fueled with easy, nutritious options from Factor Meals. You want an example? Here are a few. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Okay, yes, and yes. Filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. It's fantastic. Head to factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 and use code Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your second box. That's code Bucknuts50 at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. I highly recommend it to you guys. Get on Factor Meals. Check it out. It's a great deal too. 50% off. Then you get 20% off. You want another box on top of that. Factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 to get 50% off. Boom. Dan Rubin, welcome in. And we're going to talk a lot of recruiting on the show. And I also want to talk about Ohio State's D-line this year. I've been touting their virtues. Are they going to live up to it this year? This year, guys like Tuimoloau are going to live up to it. Jack Sawyer, the way he played toward the end of last year. Is that going to be Jack Sawyer all year this year? So we're going to get into that. But Dan, I want to start with this. We got a pretty nice 4-horse race for the number one spot in the recruiting rankings. Maybe someone else will get in there and make it a 5-horse race. We shall see. The Ohio State Buckeyes, of course, have the number one spot. Buckeyes have 21 commits. They also have the best average player ranking, which I love. They're not just a number one because of quantity. It's quantity and quality. 93.7 is Ohio State's average player ranking. Total score 301.8. Bama is catching up, though. Bama, 20 commits, so one less than Ohio State. Very similar average player ranking, but not quite as good as Ohio State's. Bama, 93.4, where Ohio State's 93.7. So Bama's overall score, 284.7. Just two more. Georgia, 17, only 17 commits, and their average player ranking is not as good as Ohio State's or Bama's, but it's pretty close, 92.9, 269.5. Georgia's looming. I almost was thinking it was a 3-horse race, Dan. Oregon is in the mix, though. They only have 14 commits, but their average player ranking is almost identical to Ohio State's. Theirs is 93.69. Ohio State's is 93.70. They are separated by 100th of a percentage point here, or 100th of a point. So Oregon only 251.9 points right now, but they are looming. Man, I know it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme if you finish second, not first, but they finished second so many times Ohio State has. I want them to finish with the number one class. I still think they will, but this looks like a really good race.
For PR value, it would definitely be cool. We talked about this at length. You're mentioning the average rating per recruit. That's not figured into the rankings. The rankings are based on this aggregate number that you get for your recruiting, which means, as Dave was referencing, the number of guys committed already will have an impact on the number of on where your rank is. I'll tell you what's interesting to me about this is when Nick Saban left Alabama, we had talked about the holy trinity of recruiting, and that if you had offers from Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, to me, I'd stop looking at your ranking. I just assume you're a beast. And we thought, okay, Alabama may drop out. Who's going to be the third team? Now it looks like it may be 4 teams, and Oregon is no joke. Dan Lanning is a legitimate threat here. I have a feeling a couple of years from now when we're talking about like enemies of the program would be a stretch because he seems like a fine guy. But in terms of guys they got to go through to get what they want, Dan Lanning is going to be one of those prime faces that should come up.
Including this year.
Exactly. I mean, I think it'll start this year is what I'm saying. We don't really have a true appreciation for it yet because they've kind of been like, the out of conference kind of cherry on the Sunday game rather than this guy's keep me from getting the Big Ten title, which is kind of silly to say on top of it on itself. I have no idea whether they're finished number one because right now it's going to end up being other factors than, like as we're seeing with it's last spots in the class. Those can be affected by a lot of other factors. I will say this is a tremendous class. I don't think we'll be at the end of it worried about it's going to come down to whether they get, who, probably David Sanders, in terms of not just finishing number one, but finishing number one in the minds and hearts of Buckeye fans. You're going to want to get David Sanders in the mix. I know Justin Fry would probably really want to do that. So I get it. I think they'll be really close, but whether they end up being number one or not, it's going to end up like one or two guys down the stretch and their ranking and whether they take a 5-star guy here or not there. So I'm very optimistic.
Absolutely. It's funny, man. I mean, and I've said this this is no knock on Dorian Brew. I would welcome if he changes his mind. I would welcome him in the class. Not that it would matter if I welcomed him or not. I'm just saying, if he wants to be a Buckeye, that's great. But I always had a feeling maybe he wasn't coming here. Buckeyes have the top 2 corners in the country already in the class, of course, with Devin Sanchez and Naheem Offord. When he left Northmont, which, as we all know, Dayton is almost as pro-Buckeye country as Columbus, I was like, that's interesting. He committed to Oregon. Good get for Oregon. Is it wrong that, and this is not spin doctoring, and trust me, I said this because I've said this on the show before, especially when you already have Devin Sanchez and Naheem Offord in the class and another really good corner as well, and the corners that they brought in this past year with Aaron Scott and West. I mean, is it wrong that I'm not bummed at all that they lost out on Dorian Brew? I kind of expected it. You know what I mean?
I'll take those as two different questions. Is it wrong that you're not bummed out? I don't think the talent will be a problem in the secondary. Would it have been nice to add another guy? Sure. But when you get the number 1 and number 2 corner in the country and, you're in the mix for other high quality players, I don't think you can look at that and have any type of negativity. Now, Bill Kurlick has been on this forever. Had Dorian committed when his original announcement date was, and I want to say that was almost several months ago, if not longer, he would have probably gone to Ohio State. Moving to Texas from Northmont, like you said, certainly splits the country in half from a travel perspective. You no longer have the advantage of a shorter trip if you're comparing to someone else, because that's still a big deal to people. I don't care what anyone says. Going all the way out to the West Coast and traveling out there for games, if you don't live west of the Mississippi, is an all-day affair and probably an all-weekend affair, if not more than that. And when you have an option like Ohio State in your backyard, you take it. That's proven. That's not me saying that. I mean, the statistics will show you that the large majority of Ohioans who get offered by Ohio State go to Ohio State. So I don't know whether he technically considers himself an Ohioan anymore. I saw some mention on here that he was upset because of the way Nigel Glover was treated, and people are wondering how that came aboard. Nigel Glover attended Northmont with Dorian Brew. I'm not saying that Nigel Glover didn't. I don't know what Nigel Glover told Dorian Brew about his time at Ohio State, but I don't think someone goes through an entire recruitment, gets all the way to the end of it, when there's money involved and your future involved, and then your friend says, oh, they were mean to me. And you're like, well, then I'm not going there. I don't think that has anything to do with it. That's my opinion. I get that if you're already moving somewhere in a decision and another piece of anecdotal evidence comes up to help you push out there that helps with the story, I get it. But when people say stuff like that, it's kind of like when people say they're a package deal. Sure, they are. I don't buy that. It's case by case basis, and I just think it was a lot of factors. One, I don't think he wanted to be the third corner in the room. This leads me to believe also that he has no interest in playing safety, because when we talked about Dorian Brew, we would talk about him and then we would immediately almost go to his versatility. If you're looking long-term, go look at the draft. It's much easier to get drafted as a cornerback than a safety. Okay. The average cost per corner and safety is just different. So I don't blame the guy one bit. You make your own decisions, but saying it was because some like social, your buddies, that's like, I don't know, man. That feels too much. I just don't buy it. I'm sorry. I don't have any other good thing to say, except I just don't buy that.
I don't buy it either. And I'm glad you articulated that, because I was going to say, here's the thing about Nigel Glover. Like, I followed that whole situation closely. Like, he was a 3-star recruit, committed to Northwestern, seemed like a very good fit, very intelligent young man. And when all the Pat Fitzgerald stuff happened, he was looking around. Ohio State then said, we're going to offer you a scholarship, bring you in. It was kind of like a last minute thing.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't out there, I think, the first day of practice, but was the second day of camp. That's when it all came together. And it was pretty clear the whole entire time that was going to be a redshirt year for him. It'd be different, Dan, if like Nigel Glover had been here for 3 years and those guys are really tight and he'd been here 3 years and it's like, man, he really got screwed over. It's like, dude, he was a true freshman last year that had no chance of playing. And then now he's going back to Northwestern where he'll probably get a chance to play. And unless something happened that I'm not aware of, that I'm not giving that like any credence at all. Like, there's no way that had anything to do with Dorian Brew not picking Ohio State. I'm with you on that. Who's on commit watch? I've been, last couple weeks, not on the job, on the beach, but so who might be on commit watch this month? I know that's a tricky question, but you talked to the dean, you talked to Porter and all these guys and the national guys as well. Who might be on commit watch for the Buckeyes this month?
Talk to him is accurate. Dave and I sometimes go over our talking points for the show, and then I cheat half the time and call the dean. And I did that this morning. Maxwell Roy, defensive tackle from St. Joe's. We've jested about this when you were gone, that we've now got a new pipeline out of Philly. It's St. Joe's. You've got Marvin Harrison. You've got Isaiah West. The transfer, the safety transfer from South Carolina, whose name escapes me. I apologize for that. And Jim Knowles, by the way, also a St. Joe's grad, which I kind of like. I know that really has as much to do with Dorian Brew not going to Northmont because of Nigel Glover, but I like the fact that Jim Knowles went to St. Joe's and kind of chum around with the guys when they visit. And when it's a defensive lineman who's also going to be a stud, I like it even more. When it's a defensive lineman who's going to be a stud and Michigan thought they were getting him for a long period of time, then I really like it. So I would expect that we get him. And the rest of the booms, I'm going to I'll resort to letting the dean and Mark Porter handle that yesterday, but that's a good one coming for sure.
So I just found out from Mrs. Deetra Sanchez some very good news here. I'm a big Monica Daniels fan. She's a great ambassador to Ohio State.
Kidding me?
And I haven't met Deetra in person yet, but I feel like I know Deetra. Monica and I have known each other for a while, and she even comes on the show sometimes. I talk to Monica, at least text, pretty often. How about this? The two queens have met in person. She said, Dave, this is Deetra Sanchez. Dave, I met and talked to Monica. I forgot to tell you. That's awesome.
And not to blow smoke here, but a lot of times when you meet the parents of these elite athletes, you realize why they are where they are. And they've gotten just tremendous guidance. And yes, both of those women passed along, tremendous physical characteristics. The kids are gifted human beings, but that's not all it takes, man. And we've been blessed to meet some incredible families, and you're talking about two of the absolute best.
Yeah, I mean, I can name, and there's several that are, the father, and the mother. We know the CJ Stroud story. People might have been wondering, how is CJ Stroud so grounded with what, some people might say, his dad got railroaded a little bit. Maybe the punishment didn't fit the crime, and he's growing up with his dad in prison. How did CJ Stroud not just become a great quarterback, but such a great young man? Then you meet Kimberly Stroud, and you're 2 seconds later, okay, I get it now. Donovan Jackson's mom is the exact same way. Paris Johnson. Why is Paris Johnson so mature and just such a great young man? You meet Monica, 2 seconds later, you understand why. So
it's interesting, Dave. A lot of the chatter about sports parents and stuff is negative, and they're probably talking about me personally, which is fine, but it's true.
I'm glad you said it. I didn't have to.
That's all right. The people that it worked, the people that I've met and the people that I've dealt with my children, it is unbelievable how many great parents are out there and how many parents want to see your kids succeed and just appreciate talent and kids doing better. So yes, there are some knuckle sandwiches out here that look a lot like a guy in a gray foundation t-shirt, but there are also good parents out there who don't raise their voice at games and, are just super supportive and great. So listen, it's not easy to get to Ohio State football. There's a few people who want to play there in the country. If you get there, you have made it through an unbelievable gauntlet of obstacles and challenges and talent. So like I said, pretty much every guy that goes to Ohio State is the best player in the history of their town, and they're a first name basis kid. So very impressive. Dietrich, I was sitting with Dietrich at the game.
Especially if you're from a small school in Ohio and you get a scholarship to Ohio State. There's just I raise my voice at games.
No, that means Dietrich and I will be sitting together.
Yeah.
Because I like to sit where there's a cacophony of voices. So when they look up to scream, I'm like, hey. Unfortunately, in my town, there's no one for me to sit with. I'll just go put it that way. And they know. Believe me, I'm better with my third child than my first. My first one, I think there were people who literally wanted me to leave in handcuffs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and in a basketball gym with the acoustics, man, that just echoes all around. Like on a tennis, like my daughters play tennis, so I got to be really careful because it's very quiet. You can be speaking under your breath, and someone can look over at you like they'll hear you. It's like, okay, my wife will elbow me like, shut up. Like
I don't know if I could do that.
When our kids are playing sports, it's like the most important thing in the world. Like it's ridiculous.
I'll tell you a funny, quick aside, funny story. I have boy, girl, boy. My boy, I was tough on. My daughter, first time she was playing sports, it was soccer, kindergarten. Ball gets kicked out, and I say, all right, come on, Emma, good job. She stops in the middle of the field and yells, you're putting too much pressure on me. I'm like, all right, done coaching my daughter. So fantastic ballet dancer, but too hot outside.
There you go. Hey, you got to save all the anger for the boys, right?
Unfortunately.
No, or fortunately, they're both doing very well.
It's worked so far.
Denison's happy about it.
They are.
Right, so everybody out there, if you don't have a rooting interest in D3 men's basketball, Denison is our adopted team because Dan's boy is the star player of the team, and he's going to have another boy that's going to play there too, probably or definitely.
I'm sure that he's been offered. I don't know if he's announced his verbal commitment yet. So
we're going to break a commitment.
Dave, I think you know that you don't want to spoil someone's commitment, Dave, or we're going to get 9,000 messages about how Bill shouldn't have trivia. Who was a defensive lineman that committed during camp on the field to Larry Johnson? Everyone started cheering, the little family out there. So Bill reported it, and we took a beating for that.
Jalen Holmes.
Correct. Ding.
Boom.
Good job.
Boom.
Good job.
And it was like
really good poll by you.
There was like one day everybody was like, how can Bucknuts ruin it? It was like Bill saw everybody congratulating it. He'd been doing this forever. He didn't feel like he needed to get like confirmation. That was the confirmation. And it wasn't like a lot of people saw it. It wasn't like they were like in some back room and Bill like was, in spy mode and saw it. Like it was like in public at a camp.
It doesn't take a recruiting guru.
He got hit hard for a day. And then the very next day, Jalen Holmes committed to the Buckeyes. And people were like, oh, yeah, Bucknuts was right. But then they still got on us because we ruined his day in the sun. It's like, come on, man.
Just so you know, it was him, Larry Johnson, and his family. Something was said. There was a cheer, and he and Larry Johnson hugged. What do you think they were talking about? Were they watching a horse race on a phone or something, and they won money? I mean, come on. It was at a recruiting camp.
And he was on commit watch. Like, that was a big thing. Like, there was a good chance. Bill had been reporting that there's a really good chance Jalen Holmes can commit. He's been here before. He's coming again. They love him. He loves them. So it was already like he was watching for it. And that was the moment he knew it happened.
And tell you what, things have changed, man. You cannot Nobody cares anymore. They will report it regardless. The idea of letting someone get their day, they will not do that. We here at Bucknuts will do it, but I'm telling you, don't let the word get out.
All right, let's switch some gears here. I want to talk about Ohio State's D-line.
Okay,
like, is this the year that they're going to step up and be one of the nation's best? Not just like, 5-star here, 5-star there. You Tyreek, Ty Hamilton, good backups. I mean, I've been touting this D-line. We had a thread we have a thread right now going on the message board on the front row, wondering, is this really going to be the year? It was really a JT Tuimoloau thread, but it's turned into just a thread about the defensive line. It's like, is Tuimoloau going to be a guy that flashes, has a great second half against Penn State, but then is kind of average here and there? Is he going to go out with a big year? Are we going to see the Jack Sawyer that ended last year and played really, really well to end the year last year? Tyreek Williams, I mean, I'm bullish on him. I thought he played really well last year, now as a senior. Ty Hamilton's been kind of an underrated guy. I love that he's here as a fifth-year senior. He plays violently. As Larry Johnson says, he has violent hands. I love that. Now as a fifth-year senior, I mean, he's a pretty big boy. He didn't come in that big. He's smaller than his brother, Devon, but he's now a fifth-year senior. I mean, Ty Hamilton's well put together. Then, man, you got Jason Moore. You got, Hero Canoe. You got Caden McDonald as your backup D tackles. You got Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Mitchell Melton as the top backup defensive ends. Okay, so that's 10 guys. They're, and I think Edric Houston's going to work himself into the mix. He's not going to redshirt. I don't know how much he's going to play. Edric Houston will be on the travel roster. He'll play football this year.
Yes.
Will they? I know we can't answer the question right now. We're just talking. I mean, I'll just put it this way. Obviously, I hope this is the year that they're not just good. If they're great, I have no doubt the secondary is going to be great. I think the linebackers are going to be good enough, maybe even better than I think. The defensive line is great. Good luck to any offense against this defense, because I'm curious if they're going to be good or great. I have no doubt they'll be good. Can they be consistently disruptive in big games is my question.
You did a great job setting that up. I do wonder, I started to wonder this in like a big picture idea that we were not spoiled by the Bosa brothers and having Chase Young when we did back to back to back, because I look around college football, I don't see any team getting the edge pressure that we used to get with those guys. I've told this story before. Who was it? Temple that came to play Ohio State early in the year when Nick was a senior. It was a team from Philly that wasn't very good. I think it was Temple. Regardless, maybe Rutgers.
It would have to be Temple, because
might have been Rutgers, whatever. Yeah. But I literally said out loud on 3rd and long in the, when you're in a crowd at the game and you say something when the crowd is dulled down, you shouldn't have said it at that time.
Right.
I yelled Bosa time to the point where his dad turned around, and guess what happened on the next play? Sack. Easy. And so it was like, this is so easy. I just sit here and say 3rd and long sack, and he does it, and it looks so easy. And then the guy on the other side of the field, oh, by the way, was arguably the most intimidating defensive end I've ever seen in college football. Now, he hasn't materialized in the pros like I thought, but Chase, you're talking about the number 2 pick in the draft. You're talking about some of the highest defensive ends ever selected. And, I can make a real strong argument that Nick Bosa is the best defensive player maybe walking the earth right now. Think about that. The fact that you can even make the argument, as Dave nods his head negatively, lets you know that it's a challenge and that he's in there. Now, bringing it back to this year, I don't think we're ever going to see that vibe again in college football, because the offenses are now geared to get the ball out of the guy's hands so quickly or move him around that the idea of a pocket quarterback standing back there and getting hammered just doesn't see. So it comes down to what you said before, was the consistent pressure and disruption. They call it hits on the quarterback or whatever like that. Like, there are guys who get paid in the NFL and you're like, he's got 6 sacks. Why? It's because he's always in there, man. He's always getting pressure on the quarterback. Jack Sawyer ended last year, I thought, playing close to, the 3rd Bosa brother rep that he came in with. Hopefully that was the light coming on and not he was just in better shape than everyone else. Some of those guys, though, now that they've been here for a while, are kind of what they are. I think JT is a really, really good player. the idea that we're expecting Penn State every week from him is a little bit ridiculous. He's just not going to do that. What I got out of what you said earlier, though, is they are 10 deep, legit 10 deep. All 10 of those guys are NFL players. They are. Maybe not first-round draft picks. All 10 of those guys will be in an NFL camp. And their depth at defensive tackle is tremendous. So the depth isn't always – it's not just great for the games. It's great for if you have any injuries. Football is a war of attrition. The only guarantee we have right now is that this staff will not – the team will not look the same when we take the field for the Michigan game. Guys are going to get hurt. Now, if everyone at Ohio State gets through the season healthy, we will win the national championship. I could say that about almost every NFL team as well. If you don't have one injury, you're in good shape. It's not going to happen. We have witnessed this in tough fashion. I mean, at the end of the season, there have been a couple times when I thought we had the best team and we just didn't have the guys on the field at the end of the game. So the defensive line, I love the depth. We've talked about it. My man crush is Jason Moore on the interior. And I'm very excited about it. I think it's reasonable, like you said, that our expectations are higher for this group than maybe since I'd have to go back and look. Maybe when Bosa was a freshman, the older Bosa, it was amazing. He even got on the field. And Adolphus Washington was here. A bunch of guys, the Noah Spences of the world. But very optimistic, but really optimistic about the depth.
Yeah, I mean, I think, those backup DNs are going to be really good, with Curry and Kenyatta Jackson and Mitchell Melton. And you mentioned Jason Moore. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be that 3 tech off the bench. I mean, Hero Kanu can play 1 and 3. Caden McDonald's kind of my man crush of the second-year defensive tackles because he's that true, nose guard, 1 tech. I think he'll pair perfectly with Jason Moore for the next few years. There'll be backups this year, of course. But Hero Kanu is going to play a lot too. But Caden McDonald, he didn't play that much, but flashed, I thought, as a true freshman. And he is exactly what I want out of a 1 tech, especially a backup. We got really Ty Hamilton is, even though you would think Tyleek Williams would be the 1 tech and Ty Hamilton would be the 3, it's actually switched. Ty Hamilton's actually the 1 tech. Tyleek's the 3. Tyleek's more of the playmaker. It's interesting, despite he weighs about 35. Maybe not 35. He weighs about 25 pounds more than Ty Hamilton. 30 pounds, maybe 30 pounds more. All right. I was going to see if Dan was going to walk the plank here and do this next read, but he was so nice to do. He hosted 5 shows each the last 2 weeks. 10 shows Dan hosted the last 2 weeks. So
it ain't digging ditches.
I'll tell you guys about this. What's weird is we have women listening to the show, a decent amount. And I have
to hit that like button.
I still have to do this. Maybe they can get this for their man if they need it. I don't know. Joy Mode. Welcome back to Joy Mode as a sponsor of the show.
Pat Murphy's favorite.
Pat Murphy loves it. Luckily he wasn't doing it while I was on vacation, but it's not past Pat Murphy's, lifestyle to text me at 2 a.m. to tell me how much he loves Joy Mode.
Usually just a thumbs up.
I mean, he just is very excited about Joy Mode.
The thumbs up emoji.
I think I speak for most men, including Patrick Murphy, when I say we want to have better sex. And for the sake of our partner, we may need to have better sex. The issue is that over-the-counter erection pills contain unregulated chemicals, suggest unsafe doses, and include the risk of several other health problems. You don't want that. That's why we partnered with our friends over at Joy Mode. Whether you're looking to spice up your intimate moments or increase your confidence in the bedroom, Joy Mode makes all natural and science-backed supplements dedicated to helping men perform better across their core functions. Go to usejoymode.com/Bucknuts and get 20% off with code Bucknuts at checkout. That's 20% off and free shipping with code Bucknuts at usejoymode.com/Bucknuts. Great sex solved naturally. There you go. I hope Pat is using the 20% off discount. There's no law that we can't use it too. That we can't use the discount. So there you go. I hope Pat's at least getting that 20% off. So there you go, my friends. Get on joymode.com and get your use that code Bucknuts and get your discount there. Joy Mode. All right. Now there was a thread on the message board that was just started today that I thought was interesting. And the question was posed, is high school recruiting as important as it once was due to the portal and everything else? My answer to that is yes, it's as important. It's just the portal is exponentially more important than what just getting transfers was. They had to, obviously not that long ago, you had to sit out a year, or unless you were a graduate transfer like a Jonah Jackson, then you could come in and play right away. Unless you got like a waiver like Justin Fields did. There were, several guys that didn't have to sit out, but most guys would have to sit out a year. So it was still important then, I thought, to get transfers. It's exponentially important now. But transfers to me, the portal is, especially for Ohio State, since that's what we're doing here, that is to fill holes. Recruiting is still your lifeblood. So I don't think, maybe you can say it's not quite as important because the portal is now much more important. But I just think recruiting is just as important as it's always been, because that's going to be your lifeblood. You're bringing in over 20 guys in your recruiting class. You're bringing in like 6, 7 transfers if you're Ohio State, and you're filling holes. So I would say, yes, high school recruiting is still as important as ever, because that's going to be the lifeblood of your program.
All right. So I don't think there's enough data on this yet. But I thought about this. I'm not sure how many years we'll need to figure this out, but let's start with when the transfer rules were completely massaged to the point where everyone can do what they want. I think it's more important than ever, because if you look at who the 3-year elite players are, they're not transfers. They're the top high school players. Now, I will say this, quarterback is almost on its own. Quarterback almost needs its own silo. And that the transfer portal, I think last year, more than 50% of the starting quarterbacks in Division I were transfers. So that one's a little different. Aside from that, I think it's, if you look at the offensive and defensive line, where Dave, you've talked about this, how we need to be recruiting up there on the front line, and most of the guys that are going to get picked high in the draft. And don't kid yourself on this either. The reason guys come to Ohio State is to play in the NFL. That is not an arguable point. Someone asked me the other day, well, why do you care so much about the pros? If you had everyone come to your school pre-med, you'd care about med school, okay? Right. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And every single kid, we do those, we stand outside the hotel and every kid walks in. If you could ask every kid, where do you think you'll be in 5 years? 90%, maybe the punter and the kicker are realistic. They all think they're going to the league, which means they're choosing a school based on who can get them to the league. Just like if you're an engineering student, you choose a school that's getting you the best engineering job or school. So that's not even an arguable point. You need to do that. Go look at the guys getting drafted at the top of the draft. Most of them are 3-year guys from the elite schools. And I think it's more and more and more important. David Sanders is a high school recruit. Okay. Devin Sanchez is a high school recruit. Tavian St. Clair is a high school recruit. That's how you build your program. I get that you can get transfers in here to fill holes. Davis and Igbenoghen's been incredible. There are isolated one-off instances like Caleb Downs. That's not what we're talking about here. If you need the greatest coach of all time to retire to get a guy, that's an outlier. That's not something you can plan on for next year, dude. So I think it's even more important than ever. And the teams, look at who's at the top. We already discussed this. Look at who's got a chance to win the championship, and look who's in the top of the rankings. That's going to get even more like that. It's going to be condensed towards the top, in my opinion. So, said another way, we're in good shape.
We sure are. Well, this is a fun show. Glad to be back. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. We have a very large live audience. Appreciate our live audience. I appreciate everybody who's listening to the podcast-only version, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Appreciate all of you guys watching or listening. Thanks to Dan, and thanks again to Dan for covering me for the last couple weeks. Dan will be back with you guys tomorrow. I'll be back on Wednesday. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to all of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.